morning felt different. The air was soft, a little cool after last night's drizzle. The sky was still pale when I stepped onto the balcony, holding my little basket and a trowel. From the doorway, I could already see the greens. My lettuce, Chinese cabbages, tomato vines, bean plants, all stretching toward the light. I've been harvesting from these pots for a while. Some of them have gone through several cuttings of lettuce already. But this time, something new happened. Between the spaces where I had trimmed, new seeds I'd sown earlier, lettuce and napa cabbage, started to sprout thickly. Tiny green lives crowded together, each one reaching for its bit of sunlight. At first, I just smiled and left them that way, thinking I'd thin them later. But today, they had grown too close, their roots tangling together. It was time to separate them. The gentle mess of a small garden. When you grow vegetables in limited space, like I do here on this small balcony, every pot becomes its own tiny world. One pot might have lettuce, another might have cabbage, and between them, a tomato vine leaning toward the railing. Underneath, a few spring onions poke their heads out, and in the corner, my beans. They've just started to flower. It's funny how these small worlds connect. The water from one pot drips down to another. The shade of one leaf becomes the shelter for the next sprout. Everything supports everything else. Just like how the balcony feels like one small, breathing garden. This morning, I started with the lettuce. I dug gently at the base of each crowded clump. The roots were thin and white, so soft that I had to lift them with my fingers instead of the trowel. Some broke, some came out whole, but I didn't rush. Each tiny plant I pulled free felt like a little rescue. I set them aside in a tray, misted them with water to keep them fresh, then started working on the cabbages. The joy of moving them to new homes. The pots I used for transplanting are the same ones that had been harvested many times before. The soil is still rich, still alive. It smells of compost and the soft sweetness of decomposing banana peels, because that's what I feed my plants with. I save banana peels from the kitchen, soak them for a few days until they turn into this golden, slightly fermented liquid. Then I mix it with water, and that becomes my banana fertilizer, my garden's favorite drink. For now, I make small holes in the soil, tuck the lettuce and cabbage seedlings in one by one, and press the soil around them gently. They look fragile at first, leaning a little, but I know by tomorrow, they'll stand tall again. I always feel peaceful during this part. Hands in the dirt, the smell of wet soil, the soft sounds of morning. It's like the whole garden breathes with me. Tomatoes in full bloom. Just behind me, my tomato plants have started to bloom. Their yellow flowers look like tiny stars against the green leaves. Every time I see them, I feel a mix of excitement and a bit of responsibility. Because once the flowers come, it's feeding time. This is when I bring out the banana fertilizer. The potassium in bananas helps with flowering and fruiting, and I swear, the tomatoes love it. It's nothing fancy, just a jar of water filled with chopped banana peels, left to sit for about a week. The smell turns a little tangy, like fruit wine, and that's when it's ready. I pour a small amount into a watering can, dilute it with fresh water, and start feeding the tomato plants first. The soil darkens, the water slowly seeps in, and I imagine the roots drinking from the straw. Small act of what that feels like. Each flower that opens afterward feels like a thank you. Next to the tomatoes, my bean plants have been covered in flowers. Tiny white and purple blossoms that will soon become long green pods. Some pods have already started forming. They hang like little promises, still soft and shiny. I touch them gently, smiling. The beans were slow at first. They took their time climbing, and for a while I thought they wouldn't make it. But now, they're covered in life. I share the same banana fertilizer with them. Not too much, just a light watering around the base. It's enough to keep the flowers strong and the pods developing nicely. Sometimes, while watering, I catch a glimpse of tiny insects buzzing around. Bees or small flies that help with pollination. Even on this balcony, life finds its way. After the tomatoes and beans, I move on to the other pots. The ones with radishes, green onions, and cabbages. Each gets a little of the banana mix, diluted and gentle. It's not just for flowers, the nutrients help strengthen the roots and the color of the leaves too. As I water, the smell of ripe banana and soil fills the air. The sunlight hits the leaves, making them glisten. I take a step back and just watch. Lettuce leaves fluttering in the breeze, tomato flowers glowing gold, and bean vines swaying gently. It's such a small balcony, yet it feels like a whole living world. There's a kind of stillness in gardening that I love. Even though my hands are moving, tucking soil, watering, cleaning up, my mind feels calm. Maybe that's why I always film these moments. Not to show something perfect, but to share the real side of growing. The soil under your nails, the uneven leaves, the surprise seedlings that sprout where you least expect. When I see these plants thrive, I think about how they started. Just a handful of seeds sprinkled between old roots in a pot that's been harvested too many times. And yet, they still found a way to grow. That's what I love most about gardening, watching growth happen. A few hours later, when the sun moves higher, I come back to check on the plants I transplanted earlier. They're already looking stronger, no longer drooping. Some have lifted their leaves, catching the light again. It always amazes me how quickly plants adjust. Give them space, a little water, and they'll respond right away. The tomatoes now have bees hovering nearby. The bean pods are growing longer, and the lettuce looks like it's starting to settle into its new home. Everything feels alive. I take a moment to breathe it all in. The sound of city life below fades away. All I can hear is the rustle of leaves, the drip of water, and the soft hum of the morning. This is my peace. Note about the banana fertilizer, I've tried different things before. Kitchen scraps, compost, even commercial organic fertilizers. But the banana one remains my favorite. It's simple, natural, and effective. You can make it easily. Just take banana peels, chop them up, and soak them in water for about a week. You'll notice the water turning cloudy and a slightly sweet smell. That's when it's ready. I use it for flowering plants like tomatoes, beans, even some fruiting vegetables. But I also give a little to leafy greens once in a while. They seem to love it too. The key is moderation. A little goes a long way. And if you keep the jar covered loosely, it won't attract flies or smell bad. It's one of those small garden tricks that make you feel connected. Like you're feeding the plants something made from your own kitchen, your own hands. Thing reflections. By the time the sun starts to set, the balcony looks fresh again. The pots I worked on earlier now have neat little rows of lettuce and cabbages. The tomatoes catch the warm light, their flowers glowing gold, and the bean vines sway, full of tiny pods. I sit for a while, sipping tea, watching how the colors change in the light. The garden feels different after a day of work, calmer, more alive. Sometimes I think about how much this little space gives back. Even though it's just a balcony, it holds so many moments. Growth, patience, quiet joy. I used to think I needed a backyard to have a real garden. Now I know, it's not about the size of the space, but the care you give it. Every leaf, every bloom. It's all a reminder that life finds its way, even in small corners. As night falls, I take one last look around. The lettuce and cabbages are tucked in, the tomatoes shimmer under the soft balcony light, and the beans look ready for tomorrow. I smile, thinking about what this garden has taught me, to grow slowly, to stay patient, and to find happiness in small things. If you're watching this and have a few pots at home, try planting something, even just one seed. You'll be surprised how much it can bring. And if you enjoyed spending this quiet moment with me and my little balcony garden, don't forget to subscribe, leave me a comment, or share your own garden story below. Because every garden, no matter how small, has its own story, and this is mine.